Hey everybody, off the mic Sports Network here. So there's a big discussion going on in the NBA. And I'm not trying to disrespect a certain fan base on this, but this discussion needs to end. It is who's going to be the coach of the year in the NBA? Because there has been a lot of momentum, and I give a ton of credit to JB Bickerstaff of the Detroit Pistons and what they've been able to do, the incredible run that they have been on of late. They just beat the Boston Celtics on Wednesday night. Granted, it was the second half of a back-to-back. Jaylen Brown didn't play. But the Detroit Pistons remind me a lot of the Cleveland Cavaliers from a couple years ago. Young team on the rise, coincidentally coached by JB Bickerstaff. But we need to end this narrative right away that there is any other choice for coach of the year in the NBA outside of Kenny Atkinson. This debate needs to end. I've said it before on this channel. The Cleveland Cavaliers, if they win in Boston on Friday night, then they will have more wins than they had all of last season. And they will have an opportunity in their first game in March to hit the 50-win plateau. They have not lost since near the end of January, where they lost 3 games in a row. The closest game, coincidentally, that they have played was a game where they blew like a 10-point lead in the span of about 2 minutes and needed a Darius Garland 35-footer to beat the Pistons when Donovan Mitchell didn't play. That is how dominant this team was. They just went to Orlando and won by 40. So this is almost the identical roster going into this season. This is almost the identical roster that the Cavs had when they won, I think, 48 games last season. So all due respect to JB Bickerstaff, all due respect to the Detroit Pistons. And I understand that they were an awful, awful team last year. But there is only one choice for coach of the year in the NBA, and it is Kenny Atkinson. I would make an argument he should win it unanimously. He won't, because I understand that there is going to be some voters that are going to migrate to the JB Bickerstaff story. But let me pose an argument, and some people will get mad at me for saying this. Probably some Pistons fans who will get in my mentions about how this is going. But if you ask me, isn't the fact that the Cavs are about to surpass the win total with almost the identical roster from a year ago at the end of near the end of February, isn't that kind of an indictment on JB Bickerstaff? I understand he's coaching a different team, but to me, that is a strike against JB Bickerstaff, even though he is doing an amazing job coaching a completely different team. But this Cavs team had 48 wins the entire season. It is February 26th as we're recording this. They need one win to get to 49. And they will, and if they don't beat Boston, I don't have their schedule in front of me right now, but they are probably going to get to 49 relatively soon. And to me, that needs to be commended, because there was so much talk within the Cavs fan base and, Cavs media personalities, people in Cleveland, saying they need to break up this core four. They need to separate Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. They need to separate Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And look what happened. All he did was change the coach. And yes, health has definitely been a big part of this. Guys have been a lot healthier. Darius Garland's been relatively healthy most of the season. He's missed the last couple of games. Guys are playing less minutes, which also has something to do with coaching and the way that Kenny Atkinson has managed his rotations. They've also done a better job of coaching Evan Mobley. And this team is just run at a different level. And I'm not saying that JB Bickerstaff is a bad coach. He did a lot of great things for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But to me, one of the big reasons why, the obvious reason is just the Cavs went from 4 seed and a team that was struggling to get out of the first round of the playoffs to far and away right now the best team in basketball, or at least one of the 2 or 3 best teams in basketball, depending on who you look at. Everybody's going to look at Boston and Oklahoma City, and I think a lot of people are kind of dismissing the Cavs, but this is largely the same roster. They didn't make any trades. They made one trade at the deadline, but they didn't make any trades in the offseason. Max Strus missed like the first month of the season, and they won like their first 15 games. This is unbelievable what the Cavs are doing this season. And I think because they are so freaking dominant, I think we're losing sight of the fact of what this team was last year. They were a good team, but they weren't a great team. They were a middle of the road team in the Eastern Conference. They were a 4 seed. They went to 7 games with the Magic. The same Magic team that they just beat by 40 the other night. So forgive me if, like, I'm not trying to poo-poo on this JB Bickerstaff story. And I saw Antonio Daniels at SiriusXM NBA Radio was basically saying that he would vote for JB Bickerstaff. All due respect, I understand that the Pistons were terrible, but the talent was always there. They needed a guy who could stabilize this thing. And if you remember, JB Bickerstaff did the same thing with the Cavs when John Beilein, who was a college coach, comes in. It doesn't work out. JB Bickerstaff stabilizes the shift, gradually builds this team over years. I think the reason why a lot of people are migrating to the Pistons is this growth. They could finish with the 4 seed, which is just bananas to think about in the Eastern Conference. So I do think JB Bickerstaff has had an unbelievable season, but I almost think it's kind of disrespectful to Kenny Atkinson, given the fact that nobody took this Cavs team seriously as a viable NBA championship contender. And now on a regular basis, Stephen A. Smith, you could say what you want about his basketball acumen and whatnot, but that guy's voice carries weight when he comes on television because he's getting paid all this money and he has a huge platform. The fact that he has gone out of his way to stand up for the Cleveland Cavaliers says something about what this team has done. So there's a reason why Kenny Atkinson is the overwhelming favorite in Vegas. I can't even talk right now, but just like I said, look at and also everybody's talking about how the youth of the Pistons, Cavs, 23-year-old Evan Mobley, 24-year-old Isaac Okoro, 25-year-old Darius Garland, 26-year-old Jared Allen, 27-year-old DeAndre Hunter, 27-year-old Ty Jerome, 28-year-old Sam Merrill, 28-year-old Donovan Mitchell, 28-year-old Max Strus, 28-year-old Dean Wade. That is, let me count this off the top of my screen right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players on this team under the age of 30. Some of them they may have to find a way to re-sign, but this Cavs team ain't going anywhere, too. And the fact that they have made this significant leap, that we're near the end of February and they are going to get close to 50 wins. Don't sit here and tell me that you thought that was possible. But you could also say to me, hey, Detroit Pistons, one of the worst teams in basketball a year ago. Nobody had them, being where they are and beating Boston tonight. This is a good basketball team. But I think, a lot of people are migrating to great stories when you talk about just excellence of what is going on in Cleveland right now. And because they are so dominant, I think people are losing sight of that. And to me, it shouldn't be a discussion. I mean, it's a fun thing to talk about. The Pistons being good again is actually really good for the NBA. It's a great franchise. It's a great basketball city. One of my dear friends in the world, Lane Weiss, she loves this team, and I can easily see why. They are exactly what Detroit is about: blue collar, hardworking. They've got a young stud in Cade Cunningham. But listen, Kenny Atkinson's the coach of the year. I don't even think it's a discussion. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.